Hi, I'm Derek Miller, President and CEO of the Salt Lake Chamber. And this month, the Salt Lake Chamber is celebrating Women's History Month, a time to highlight the contributions of women in history and local leaders of today. Throughout the month of March, we're sitting down with female leaders who are making a difference in Utah, in both business and in our local community. And today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Mayor Jenny Wilson. Thank you so much for being here today, Mayor.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We have a few questions that we want to ask you, and we appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule. You're the newly elected mayor of Salt Lake County, if you didn't know that. You are the county's first female Democratic mayor. Tell me what that accomplishment means to you.
Well, I've been campaigning for some time. Many people know that I was the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, and I faced Senator Mitt Romney. And, my head was sort of in it to think about what it might be to serve in the U.S. Senate. And all the while, I was also serving on the Salt Lake County Council. That was my day job, and working on issues of importance to Salt Lake County. So it's frankly happened rather quickly. November ended, and it did not go my way, but I immediately had an opportunity once Ben McAdams was declared the new congressman, and jumped in a sprint to the finish and was successful. So I have to say, I've been really happy to be in this role. I feel comfortable in it, given I've had 10 years of service as a county council member. And, as a woman in the role, I don't know. I mean, I think most of what I focus on is what I need to do that day. But I do think that it is important that we have women run for office and put themselves out there. So I do take pride in that. And I'm excited for the next couple of years as I continue on in this role.
Speaking of thinking every day of what you need to do that day, I'm sure you get asked this question a lot, and our viewers would love to hear the answer as well. What are some of those long-term goals? What are some of the things that you hope to accomplish during your tenure as the mayor of Salt Lake County?
Well, I can tell you, knocking on doors was so helpful. And I did it, I even knocked on doors to Democratic Central Committee members who were the voting audience for me to be able to take over Mayor McAdams' position. We went door to door in the depths of January. But I was also out as a Senate candidate, and I think it's really important to take the time to engage with people directly. And the engagement is what's helped me set my vision for the county. I heard a lot of frustration about our air. And I know, you look historically, we've done things, science has changed, technology has changed, cars are getting cleaner, and that's all good, but there are days where kids with asthma can't go to school, and pregnant women, their health is affected. So we have to do something about that. And I think environmental issues for our county and our region is really key. Growth is a big concern. We all know that what used to take a 10-minute drive to see a family member get to work may now be taking double that time. Or if it was a half-hour commute, it's now 45 minutes. So, getting our transportation corridor more evened out, along with additional bus routes, planning for the future, growth management, that's all really key, and that is what I heard from people. And then additionally, we're in a housing affordability crisis, and you're well aware of that.
Something the Chamber's working a lot on.
Yeah, and interestingly, we're all hearing it at the same time, and these are not partisan issues. So I see a lot of opportunity, not just as a woman in government, but as a Democrat in government, to work across party lines to get things done.
You've accomplished a lot in your career, both in the public sector and the private sector. Many people may not know you're a film producer as well, an excellent film about your dad and his time as a rescue guide in the Grand Teton National Park. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment so far in your career?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I do think making that film, I bit off more than I could chew, but in the end I made it through.
It's a great film. It really
yeah,
is.
I mean, it was a fun experience. For somebody who's used to managing budgets and worked in fairly large organizations. I worked as the chief of staff to Congressman Orton in the 90s, did some other things. To have that a moment to be creative and try and figure out how to storytell, that was a challenge for me. And I am proud of the film and the work I did on that. So that's one of the fun ones, but it was also quite taxing to get that done. But, I think what I've enjoyed in my career is just taking advantage of whatever opportunity may be before me. In the heart of campaigning for the U.S. Senate, I wasn't loving it so much, but I look back on it and realized it was a great experience. So I don't know that I have one, and I like to think that I'm a more qualified mayor having worked for Congress, and I know the federal system to a certain degree. One year I just went and helped the Democrats up at the legislature and was their media person, so I had that chance to get a sense of our state government, and I've had the opportunity to work for the Olympic Games. So I feel like each of those experiences really enabled me to do this experience. And I will say this is the big one. I've got a lot of employees now. We're seeing new cities created. We have a new town created in Brighton, Utah, which will come on board next year. So our governance is changing in this valley, and to be able to be a leader at this critical moment in time is something that I'm excited about and feel really prepared for.
There is a lot going on, and you are well prepared. One of the reasons that we do this video series during Women's History Month is to give female leaders, whether that's in the business sector, the public sector, government sector, and elected officials like yourself, an opportunity to tell their story, because that can be inspirational. It is inspirational and motivational to other women leaders. Is there a part of your story that others may not know? What is the part of your story you'd like to share?
Well, I think one of the things about being a woman in government is that I do feel some responsibility, and I feel the responsibility to share that this is doable. So I think the part of my life that maybe people don't see on a regular basis is like I am a mom first and foremost. I have a 16-year-old son. You met him when we traveled together.
I was just going to say, there's no way he could be 16.
He's 16. He's
Wow.
driving. He takes his brother to school, who's 13. And I'll tell you that moment this year when I was not driving the kids to school the first day of school, I actually started crying.
For joy?
No, I was upset. And then the second day, I did a backflip for joy.
Yeah.
So, but I work like every other working woman who has a family in the same way. I mean, I balance it out. I run to the grocery store at 6 o'clock. I do what I can over the weekends to catch up on things. And I hope that my connection to the community is legitimate and real, and that people understand, that this is not the life that I live as a public official. I think is enriched by the connection in the community. Yeah. And I think that's true for all of us. And so I really try to relate to the challenges that the small cities are facing in this valley, based on, they're really looking to deliver good quality services at the very base level. And I think as a mom and a community member in my own community, I can identify with that. And that's, I think, just the overall kind of sense of, I'm a person. I was lucky enough to grow up in government and learn from it. I love this community. I'm connected to it, but I'm also having this incredible honor for the next couple of years at least to serve as the area's mayor.
Whether it's in that business life or elected life or even in personal life, we all understand to some degree that success is often accompanied by some failure. Is there any failure that you would be willing to share that has been a great lesson in your life?
So I ran for mayor of Salt Lake City 10 years ago. I was one of the candidates in the municipal primary that didn't make it through. Ralph Becker was elected that year. And I think that was an incredible learning experience. In fact, I remember the day I came to the chamber for the chamber debate. I also had an editorial board meeting that day. I was touring, a new project on the west side of Salt Lake City. I was engaging, in the late evening with going door to door and connecting. And I really think that again, I didn't make it through that one. I didn't win the Senate race this last year. And those experiences really test one. Yeah. And it makes me feel, it increases my confidence because it's invested time and learning, and I'm taking those lessons into the office that I have today.
As I mentioned, one of the reasons that we do this series is to be inspirational and motivational. People can hear your story, they learn from it. What piece of advice would you offer to our viewers?
Well, I think I've had the opportunity to connect with young women. I've been to colleges throughout the state, my own alma mater, the University of Utah, speaking to women's groups and just connecting with students. And I really want people to understand that politics is not beyond their ability. I meet women who have an interest in politics but don't know where to begin. And I just say, give it a go. Find somebody you identify with on a campaign or an elected official. Or maybe it's just a community-based organization where you can put your voice, you can throw your voice into the mix. And I just encourage people to do that. And I think that's where I really feel I have something to offer, is just to say, this isn't as complicated as one thing, serving. And I know that it is a big step to go from never being directly involved in government to be maybe mayor of Salt Lake County, but to run for a local school board, to run for your city council. And I think it works really well. As a woman, I feel like I have found a way to engage in an electoral politics in a way that worked for my family, and it has worked out. So I encourage people to jump in.
Well, that's such a great thing that you're doing, because to remove that fear factor, that can be a huge obstacle for many. So thank you for doing that. I just have one last question for you, and that is, Mayor Wilson, if you have either a personal thought or a personal feeling about why Women's History Month is so important.
Well, I think I wouldn't be sitting in this chair if I didn't have wonderful women, many of whom are still involved in government, mentor me. Jan Graham was one of them. She was the last elected Democrat statewide. She was the AG, and she was the only woman elected statewide, and I think that's pretty special. So to have women like Jan Graham mentor me years ago in the 90s when I was working in DC and she was working here was really special to me. I am, from the historical perspective, I look at the work Eleanor Roosevelt did to advocate for people and be a force in the role that she had. There are many women in this state and in our nation who have built bridges and have created opportunity for others, and I feel really lucky to be in this chair because of them.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Thank you for your time, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.